AM 1220 KDOW and Money 2.0 present The Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Bay Area real estate and mortgage experts with over 25 years in the business.
Now, with an in-depth look at this week's local and national real estate news and what it means for you. Your hosts, Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines.
Welcome into the Real Estate Report. I am Tony Mendez.
And I am Gordon Hines.
The Maestro.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us today. You can always reach us calling the show, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. You can always reach us at Facebook or YouTube. It's Bay Area Loan Source. And you can always email us, Tony or Gordon, at bayarealoansource.com.
June is rolling along on this gorgeous 9th day of June. Most kids are out of school. It looks like graduations have been last couple of weeks. My daughter graduated from college 2 weeks ago. So another successful year in the books as far as schools are concerned. I guess a lot of parents were excited to get their kids back in school because, the last couple of years, kids that graduated this year, at the same time last year, or in 2020 got cheated out of a graduation. So now kids this year got to walk the aisle and, play that song. Doom, so it's exciting. So hopefully things are looking up, especially for the young people. Young people are the future. That's why we always got to keep focused on the young people. We are old timers, so we can't put time back on the clock. So we got to be excited for young people.
Speaking of old timers, my goodness, we took an amazing trip this week and went out to a publicly traded company, one of the largest lenders in the United States, and visited their office. And gosh, did we feel like old people. The average age, I think, was like 32 at this place. A lot of young people, a lot of young, smart, good-looking, well-dressed people that are running one of the biggest financial companies out there doing home loans. Very refreshing to see that kind of excitement that's going on in those types of, in behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah, one of the key things to that company is technology. I think everybody's embracing technology. We were having a conversation in the office today about the way how things used to be versus the way how things are and the direction things have gone. A lot of things that we were doing is also, of course, now stale dated. No more need for a lot of things we do. No more need to meet a customer in person anymore. You can Zoom, you can email, you can text, you can do all kinds of things, and you can be a lot more, I guess, word I'm looking for, effective. Efficient, especially if you look at the price of gas. You don't need to drive a half a mile away to meet a customer at a Starbucks like you normally do in the morning. You can meet that same customer for coffee, at your desk with both you guys drinking Starbucks and kind of have the same type of conversation. So that's where technology has gone, especially at gas now. I think just hit the all-time high. I think the national average is about $5 per gallon for a gallon of gas. Would you believe that?
It's $6.99 right next door. And a lot of people are feeling that. It's not just that. With home prices and mortgage rates, and then you combine, all of the other consumer goods, it's really going to put a crunch. And they're starting to put a new word that's associated with this. Instead of the Great Recession, they're calling it the Great Deceleration, the Great Contraction. Those are some of the terms economists are using now because just everything just costs more with inflation. You're buying less with the same amount of money that you don't have, wages aren't keeping up. So this is what we're going to see, and how that affects the mortgage industry. The real estate market is really more appropriate, is what everyone wants to know. That's the elephant in the room. Earlier this year, I was saying that I didn't really see a problem with the inventory levels that we have to continue seeing, modest gains on a year-over-year basis. Now I'm starting to think a little bit differently. I didn't think gas was going to go to $7 a gallon here in California. I didn't think that we were going to see mortgage rates keep going up over 5.25%. Today they're at 5.23%. We're going to see those go up higher. 15 years at 4.38. So, and I don't think a lot of people are going to use ARMs and go, oh, that's going to be the savior of the mortgage market. Oh, I can still afford that house. I can just use an adjustable rate mortgage. I don't think that's going to be enough. So we might see some. It just kind of level off. We might see some zero growth in housing for a while. And then it depends on what we do really see in inventory. A lot of sellers are saying we're either going to sell or we're not going to sell. We just don't know how many are going to sell.
Well, I think time can influence one person's decision. Early in the year, you didn't see it because you didn't have the information you have today than you had early in the year. So now that you have more information, you're looking at different trends. When we first started looking at, 2022, the year started out pretty well, and now if all these different things are happening that's beyond our control, you have to be able to make a different decision, or adjust your decision or your thought process based upon circumstance. We got this war going on in Ukraine, of course. We got the inflation woes. We got gas prices over $5. We got these, massive shootings that we're dealing with on a social basis. We got so many different things that are happening that affects our decision making, and the more information we have, it's going to affect our decisions. So when we look at the balance of, we're almost at the halfway point through 2022 as we approach June 30th, end of the second quarter. Now we have to look and see what's going to happen the rest of the year, as far as now that all the information is compiled. Now we know that rates have gone up and will go up again at the next meeting. Now we know that gas prices are $5 nationwide average and will continue to go up because the summer months people tend to drive more. We got July 4th around the corner. We got Labor Day holiday. So gas prices aren't going to reprieve for the next 3 months, it looks like. So these are the things that we have to be cautious of when we make our decision making. And it's because it's going to affect our thought process, and it's going to affect our successes and failures.
I think I'm just not going to make any more predictions.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, we always talk about the crystal ball. Everybody wants the crystal ball.
Well, what's the saying about crystal ball? You don't see psychics winning the lottery?
Yeah, that's
no
for sure. Ball. So because it's an opinion basically. Everybody has an opinion, and our opinions are formed different by where we live, how we think, people we associate with, the type of news that we watch, the type of things that we engage in, all affects our opinion. So a lot of times, this opinion can differ, and neither one is right or wrong. It's just the circumstance surrounding your thought process.
I'm glad you said that,
and how you arrive at that opinion.
I'll remember you say that the opinions aren't either right or wrong. We'll have that discussion another time. Consumers are also speaking their mind. A couple surveys that Fannie Mae does is the sentiment survey, one of them. They're showing that 79% of respondents reported that it's a bad time to buy a home. That is an all-time high, while 70% of those same respondents say that mortgage rates will continue to rise. So these are the driving kind of numbers behind the buyers there. And we pay attention to that. And as interest rates continue to fluctuate, trending higher as home prices and inventory kind of fluctuate and trending towards the negative meaning less inventory, higher rates, I think we're going to continue seeing that number kind of creep up into another all-time high of, let's just wait and see. Let's just say it's not a bad time to buy. Let's just say it's wait and see kind of time.
Well, I'm talking to a lot of realtors. I had a conversation with a realtor last week. She had a couple of properties come back on the market, and she believes that she's not going to get the same price she had that she was in contract on, simply because of the market is changing. She said when she first had the listings, they were preparing the properties, she was very bullish on a high price. And then as property took the seller a couple of months to get the property together, and as time went on, prices are decreasing. So now the property was in contract. Unfortunately, it fell through. She's going to now relist the property a little bit lower than she listed the first time. And because she only had 3 offers the first time, she went back to the other offers, and the people, passed. So she believes that she's not going to be able to get that same price. So once again, as more time go on, it influences and changes our decision, and it kind of, can affect our values or profit margins in this particular circumstance for the seller, of course, in a different way. But of course, from a buyer standpoint, buyer looking at this property, maybe the property was $100,000 over their budget. Now, if it comes back on the market slightly less than $100,000, maybe
that could be
can be somebody's benefit. Somebody's getting someone lost.
That's the wait. That's the waiting part of it's wait and see. And if you start seeing more properties hitting the market, you're seeing more inventory, more choices, and maybe it's the right property. And really, that's what it is. You always talk about not timing the market. It's all about timing your opportunities. Your opportunity meaning this is we want to buy a house. We've budgeted for a house, and here it is. And whether it goes up or down from that point on, it fits what you need today and for your short and long-term goals. How about this statement, Gordon? This is the chief economist at Redfin, Taylor Marr, said, sellers are losing control of the housing market as homes that are overpriced and or less desirable are increasingly having a price reduction and taking longer to sell. Although demand is easing, some home buyers may jump back into the market when price growth loses steam and interest rates continue to stabilize. I'm not sure what he means by stabilize, because going up and down is more like fluctuating. A strong labor market will continue to be a driving force for the bulk of home buying demand this year. So we do have that. We have the strong labor market. We have wages. Yeah, they're getting eaten up by a little bit of inflation, a lot of inflation. We just heard another report. I don't have it in front of me, but that said that we have another 3 months before we could see the peak in inflation. I don't like that. I don't like gas going over 7. I didn't like it over 5. I didn't like it over 6, and now it's right there at 7.
Well, his opinion basically coincides with what the
Exactly.
realtor told us as far as price reduction, days on the market, more properties, more competition. A lot of different things happen during these times. Now I'm talking to a few people that we have pre-qualified, and now they're saying, well, Gordon, I'm not quite ready. I'm going to wait for the fall because I believe there are going to be more properties available and there's going to be less competition, and we believe we're going to get a better opportunity at getting the property at the price that they want to pay, their price point. So a lot of different things happen when we get these type of economic challenges. People sometimes get scared. They go into a hush-hush frenzy, meaning they stop spending money, which of course is the worst thing in a tight economy because we won't be able to continue to spend because the more the economy spends, it's like drying clothes. The more clothes you put in the dryer and they rub together, the faster they actually dry. Most people don't know that. Sometimes they put 1 or 2 items in the dryer. It takes longer for
We're not going to get into some scientific debate
forever
about
to dry, but that's
that's
factual. But anyway,
factual. Okay.
In terms of the marketplace, I think as people get nervous, people do different things, and sometimes people just go into a holding pattern, and that's where things really rubber meets the road, and then the market really, really, really gets challenged.
We're gonna. I don't know if we have enough time in this segment for you to answer this question, but I want to ask you a question. I want you to step out of the mortgage side of the business and get into the realtor side. We're creatures of habit. You say that all the time. We're creatures of habit. Realtors have been in the habit since 2000, let's say 12, okay? Home prices are going to go up. Home prices are going up, and then they keep going up. What's their rhetoric now? What are they telling buyers now, since they've been so used to over the last 10 years saying home prices are going to go up? This is a good investment. What's the new slogan? What's the new saying that they're giving the buyers?
I'll tell you in the next break.
We're going to come back after this break. I want to hear your opinion on this. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can always call the show 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220, or you can email the show, Tony or Gordon at BayAreaLoanSource.com. We'll be right back.
Questions about real estate? Call the program, 800-516-1220. Now, back to the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm the maestro, Gordon Hines.
Mr. Maestro. We were talking about, being creatures of habit. We thought interest rates would stay in the 3s forever. We thought home prices were always going to go up. We thought that mortgages were always going to be easy. What are realtors telling buyers right now? Now that they've gone 10 years of saying that and been very comfortable and confident in saying, oh yeah, real estate's a good investment. It's going up. Really 2014. I'm just making it easy 10-year 2012 because they really did go up since 2012. What are they saying now, Gordon? And put yourself in like you're representing a buyer. They're looking at a house and they see they're doing their research too. They may have seen some reductions. Maybe they've talked to another realtor. What are you telling them now? Because this is real information that people want to know.
Well, I think you've got to have a candid conversation of the market conditions, interest rates, numbers, where the market's going. You might buy a property today. Property might fall $100,000 in the next 6 months, but in time it go back up over that price that you paid for it. So there's always different philosophies when you buy properties. That's the reason when you purchase a property, especially from a primary standpoint, you're not buying the property as an investment. You're buying the property because it fits your needs. Location, school district, family, size, 2-car garage, laundry room, social room,
neighborhood,
office, neighborhood. All these things should be the main factors why you're buying a property, not the fact you got a good deal and you're going to look to make money in the future. I think you kind of make bad decisions when you make that type of an assessment on a property you actually purchase for a primary residence. So I think realtors right now should be having candid conversations. Hey, listen, there's going to be more inventory. Let's take a look and see what direction the market's going. Have your money ready. Still get pre-qualified. Once again, don't make a decision based upon the trends in the market. Make a decision based on the property fitting your needs, especially if you're looking to domicile that property as your residence.
Let's say you're the mortgage guy now. You're putting the other shoe on. Do you talk about, okay, well, mortgage rates are up, but they're eventually they're gonna go up and down. That's what they do. So you can afford it now. You qualify now. Prices might come down and prices might go up. That doesn't matter. But rates eventually will come back down. They will. We know that. It's not about if, it's when. So do you talk to them about refinancing it later? You can get this now at a decent, the rate's okay, but it could come back down. And that's when opportunities for you to start saving some money. Do you talk about that?
Well, we talk about rates. When a customer calls, a customer is, unfortunately, you have to deliver something that some things they're not fashionable. A lot of times people are still, we're always in a lag economy. We're all in a lag thought process. People are still calling, looking for rates in the threes. And when you mention something in the high fives, some people almost have a heart attack because they're not in tune with the times. Unfortunately, we don't make the rates. We just have to, make available what's available in the marketplace to help that client get into their property. But a good thought process is, hey, look, everything that goes up goes down. It's just a matter of time. Here's where we are today. If you want to close this deal today and it makes your numbers, this is the rate you're looking at. In the future, as rates come back down, it's going to be an opportunity to, one, either lower your payment or take cash out and keep the same payment. So these are all the things it's always a moving target that you have to just kind of fulfill and educate customers and buyers or borrowers on so that they can be informed when you make that call the next time to making that decision of where do we go from here.
Change that around a little bit to an investor. Right now we are seeing the rental market, it's called a rental market tracker. At the U.S., average asking rent surpassed $2,000 for the first time ever. Asking rents are over 30% up in some cities like Seattle, Cincinnati, Nashville, Austin. I think that's 50%. So you as an investor, though, it almost doesn't matter what the price of the house is because you're looking at cash flow. So our investor is going to be stepping up and looking at this inventory. Single family, they might, if somebody's buying as a primary, may overlook a house and maybe sit on the sideline a bit longer, look for different inventory. While an investor, rents are still going up because nobody's buying. They're still, they got to rent somewhere, they got to live somewhere. But I can still get a rate of return on my investment by going into this, regardless of the price of the property, because I'm getting a cash flow. So are we going to see some slack get picked up a little bit by investors? And should they still be active, or are they thinking the same way as owner-occupied buyers?
Well, I think investors are more astute than the owner-occupied buyers, so they're going to make a more well-informed consumed decision because they've for the most part, they've made that same decision over and over again, and they have results or a track record to prove that their decision-maker was accurate. I think an investor called me this week. He had a property, saw a 4-unit building over in Martinez for sale. I think the list price is a little over $1 million. He said the cash flow in this bill is about $4,000. I ran some numbers by it. It was 25% down, which is almost, but to close the deal, it came out about $337,000. Even that, the property would not cash flow. And then on top of that, after tenant's been there for a long time, he's got to go in and make probably $100,000, $120,000 improvements. He said, well, where is the deal? Where is the beef, as the old cliche? There is no beef in that particular circumstance. That property's probably overpriced, but once again, overpriced doesn't mean someone else is not going to pay for it. But as far as his economics and his math and his calculations, he said, listen, that property is probably worth about $800,000 in a nutshell, because by the time I go in, spend money, either buy the tenants out to kind of get a higher return on investment, I've got to spend money to get this, and that's how much longer it's going to take me to get that money back is what investors always look at. So they're always ahead of the ballpark, ahead of the game as far as we're concerned, because these guys do numbers, they've done it over and over again, and they have a track record to prove it.
And the way you described it sounds like investors might be sitting back as well, just maybe looking more at cap rates instead of valuations going down the road, looking at this cap rates instead of speculation.
Yeah, and especially when
they already did the speculation. Yeah. A lot of investors never returned back to the market after they lost everything they owned. Same thing with just
or some investors come back and say, gee, Gordon, I knew the mistake I made prior. I would never overpay for a property with the anticipation the rents are going to go up. I'm gonna cash value the property based on its current circumstance. So there's no way I'm going to buy that property because he made that decision prior and it failed him. And now he's come back to a more reality conclusion, more so than buying inside of a hype. A lot of times when things continue to go up, there's a lot of hype buying because everybody involved in that circle like the mob mentality thinks that prices are going to continue to go up, and the minute there's a glitch in that marketplace, a lot of things start to fall, a lot of people start to tumble, and there's a lot of money being lost.
So we're kind of alluding to the ultimate answer is when and more inventory, and 13.8% year over year growth in inventory over last year is a great sign. People are looking for those choices. Is there going to be enough buyers? Are there going to be enough buyers for the inventory that hits the market? Now, we're still 50% lower than we were a couple of years ago, and even more than that 3 years ago. So are we going to have enough buyers is, I think, the real question. And if we don't, do we surpass a balanced market and go right into a buyer's market for an extended period of time? That's really the question I think a lot of people want to know, especially the people who are sitting there listening to us, listening to the realtors probably fumbling around. You have to know that there's going to be a lot of realtors just not knowing how to answer this. What do you mean homes are going to keep going up? Oh,
well, it's funny you said. I had a realtor friend call me today, and she unfortunately is not a homeowner. She says, Gordon, I think now I'm going to have my money ready. I'm looking at my credit because I believe I'm going to buy something within the next 6 to 12 months, because she believes that the market's going to come down and to get her an opportunity to get back in the marketplace, that place that she haven't had the lucky draw to get into.
For all we know, we're putting our foot in our mouth, and everyone else is, and they're saying, you know what, we're just going to not buy, and next thing you know, inflation figures itself out, employment stays the same, and home prices start going back on track. That's what a lot of people are thinking about. This is a crazy time. Unpredictable. We'll come back after this break. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can always reach us at Facebook or YouTube, Bay Area Loan Source. You can always email us, Tony or Gordon at bayarealoansource.com. We'll come back after this break.
Phone lines are open on The Real Estate Report. 800-516-1220. That's 800-516-1220.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I am Tony Mendez.
And I'm the maestro, Gordon Hines.
Freddie Mac has the 30-year fixed averaging at 5.23%. It's up 14 basis points from last week. 15-year at 4.38%, and the 5-year ARM at 4.12. So we're back over that 1% spread, Gordon, on the ARM. So if you want to get a rate at 4.12%, you can get a 5-year ARM. Now, the 7-year ARM is usually the better one. I'd probably go for the extra 2 years. We really don't know what's going to happen with rates tomorrow. We don't know what rates will be in a year from now. So the longer you can get the fixed period of that ARM, the better. That's why everybody opted for the 30-year fix when rates were, in the sub threes, right? In the high twos.
Well, all indications are rates are going to go up. The European Union, it looks like they're planning for a rate increase in July, based upon inflation concerns as problems across Europe deepens. So as rates, everything goes here in America, the same thing happens across the pond, as we can say. So it's a worldwide economy. Everybody's going through the same rules. Supply constraints are, the COVID issues, the war in Ukraine. Ukraine was a big bread basket for the rest of the world. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of the food across the world came out of Ukraine. So as things, gets worse and worse, I think they're like coming up on almost 3 months into this war, and doesn't seem to be an end game. I don't know what the end formula is for Vladimir Putin, but who am I to say? I think we have to kind of make adjustments. We have to continue to look at things different, because we cannot be oblivious of what's happening in the world, because it does affect the economy.
Well, there's a lot of people paying attention to the mortgage application, especially the realtors, looking at what's going on. According to a couple surveys, we're at a 13.5-year high. So we got to go back to late 2009. I think that would be, my math would be correct. Maybe 2008 to see the rates where we are right now. But it's been called a mortgage application meltdown, according to some economists, as we see, and they see that as a threat to price growth. Do you believe that's true, Gordon? I mean, we have a lot of products that are still on the market. So we're not in an era where just because rates went up doesn't mean mortgages go away. In fact, we're seeing more and more products. We're seeing more and more really good lenders that are picking up more products to get, as you would expect, because they need to continue growing their volume. So the products are out there. So do you think that rates, I mean, that's another elephant in the room question. Do you think that higher rates really does, with the amount of products that are available to people, including first-time buyers and low-down payment products, FHA, VA, and so on, is that going to eat away into our price growth? It's really the question.
Well, I think it will, because bad news travels fast. I think people, gravitate to bad news. You hear bad things happening across the world. It happens to get you a lot quicker than good things happen. So when we look at the economy and when we look at rates and all those kind of things, a lot of people out there that put out a lot of basic rubbish, say a lot of things that are untrue and inaccurate, and people bite off on it and feed into those type of frenzies. So as rates start to go up, people start to get nervous. Absolutely, they stop spending.
I almost want to retract what I said earlier in the year about inventory. I think inventory is still going to have a large impact. We still have plenty of buyers. We're not worried about that. But we're seeing some changes very quickly, especially in the inventory numbers. We're seeing a lot more inventory numbers. We're seeing sales numbers just as being affected. So we'll come back after this break. We'll continue to talk about this topic and more here on the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can always reach us, 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220. We'll be right back after this break.
Got a question? Run it past these guys.
800-516-1220.
It's the Real Estate Report with Tony Mendez and Gordon Hines on AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And I'm the maestro, Gordon Hines.
Do not shoot the messenger. We are just reporting news in many cases and opinions. Did we have that opinion discussion? No, we're going to have that later. Bank of America, they said there's a double whammy of surging mortgage rates and skyrocketing home prices that has led to the collapse of housing affordability in America, according to the Bank of America Global Research, Chris Flanagan's team. The situation has gotten so bad that it now compares to the historically low affordable readings in the fourth quarter of 1987. By the way, rates were like 18%, something like that. I think they peaked at, and the first quarter of 2005, according to this team. Do you necessarily believe that, Gordon, that we're seeing the affordability in conjunction with some of these reports now that we're hearing that mortgage credit availability remains near long-term lows? They're seeing a small blip, but in a continually growing trend here of the availability of credit kind of weakening a little bit. So we have weakening credit availability. We have low mortgage applications across the board, purchase and refinances, and then affordability comes into play. That's a big one. So you can talk about inventory numbers and people speculating, wanting to buy, whatnot. Investors are going to buy. Are they looking at cash flows? Are there more listings, more days on the market? But when it comes down to people's ability to buy, that is the big one. You cannot get over it. You asked me a question earlier today. You said, do you qualify or not? Are there different levels of qualification? No, there's one. It's yes or no. You qualify or you don't. And that's that barrier that we're looking at. I believe it's I think it's up by 1.9% year over year as far as the average income that people need to use percentage-wise to qualify for a loan, and that's continually going up. I think it's they said in high since 1987.
Well, it's kind of hard to compare the two timelines, where we were in 1987 versus 2022 when we look at affordability. Affordability is an issue now simply because prices have gone to the roof. Prices we looked at, I think, year in, year out, between 20, 21, 22%. As far as values of concern or prices, where we didn't have that back in 1987. 1987, we had a rates probably around 12 or 14%, somewhere in that ballpark, as far as interest rates are concerned. So the properties were affordability was different from a different standpoint. Was different from the cost of borrowing versus the cost of the property themselves. I think we had different economic factors going into to those two different time frames, so it's kind of really hard to compare. It's almost like comparing, in sports, who's the greatest.
Would you say, though, would you say that home prices reflected affordability?
Well, home prices,
because if that's the case, then can we apply that formula today? If that's the case, then certainly we're going to see home prices.
You can compare the formula, but you're not comparing apples to apples. I was mentioning earlier.
We're going down to the simplest math, though. Here,
let me finish. My thought process is any sport, we're always comparing the great players of today versus great players. A person is great in their time. I think the players today gets the nod because those are the ones we see. So they forget about the great players that we don't see because they didn't see those, so they didn't realize how great they were. So when we look at affordability is from a standpoint of where we are right now of cost. We got low unemployment. We didn't have low unemployment back in 1987. A lot of things we didn't have. So I think that even though they're saying the same thing, they're not the same issue, and I think it's a different valuation for those two things. Even though that might seem to be the same.
I would agree for the most part that it's not quite apples to apples, but it still feels the same way. I think a lot of people feel like there's other pressures. We also get accustomed to buying more stuff. I mean, there's a report right in front of me how a home purchase boosts consumer spending, and if you're cutting into the people's ability to buy homes and we see less sales, the typical the person who buys a new home spends $9,200 more than a person who's not moving into somebody who is owning a home but doesn't move. Yeah, $9,200 more a year. All right, so you have somebody who's buying a home, right, that's going to spend money. If we have less people buying home, we have less money going into things like appliances, furnishing, and property alterations and repairs. All of those things that go along with owning a home. So I think we got accustomed to also buying more stuff today. So maybe people scale back a little bit and they don't buy a $4 coffee and they start, trying to work from home. I think that trend will continue to push forward.
That is the reason why we're going to struggle throughout 2022. When if you look at the cost of the home is up, you look at the cost of the supplies, you look at the cost of utilities, look at the cost of gas, all these things affect our bottom line. So as these things come more and more prevalent as we go into the third quarter, you will see the market slow down. We will see those price reductions that we're beginning to see now. We will see those not one or two offers, no offers on properties simply because the cost of ownership has gone so high. Yes?
I mean, you can't agree. You can't argue with it that much. I mean, the math is there, and then it comes down to affordability. And I don't think a lot of people are going to go, I'm just going to go away. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Jumbo. I'm just going to go to non-QM because they have higher debt ratios. Still, it doesn't change the fact you're spending a certain amount of money to buy a house. So I'm not changing my tune yet. I still think that home prices have a chance here to level off. The last two times we saw interest rates rise, we still saw year-over-year growth in the single digits, but the low single digits, but they didn't go negative. Last time they were taking out the Great Recession. It's been a while since we saw interest rates rise and home prices go down. So this might be a new test for us. What do you think we're going to be saying a year from now, Gordon?
Well, a year from now, we would have more information.
Just take a guess.
We're going to make a statement that's going to be.
Is it going to be "I told you so," or is it going to be, this is kind of what we thought was going to happen?
I mean, sometimes when you look at an economy at 12 months is a good time to go up and go down. You get a chance to recover. We get a chance to do some corrections. I think, in a year from now, hopefully the war in the Soviet Union, the war can be over. I think COVID would be a lot more settled than it is. I think, the economics of politics are beginning to be a great factor in the American economy. I think a lot of things have to happen if we're going to continue on the same path we were before. So, I mean, I don't like to make predictions. I can just go by where we are and what I see things happening. So, I mean, I'm still bullish on the market. I think, when we look at things are down, we were up for the last three. We talk on this show. We had back to back great years in this industry. So a year down is a time to refresh, take time off, take a breather, and let the market kind of recapture and reset itself so we can bring more people back in. I think rates have gone up. A year from now, rates have come down. We'll be refinancing again. So behind every dark cloud, there's a silver line as far as my economic tune is concerned.
Maybe all the people who held their houses 2007-8 didn't sell, didn't bail, as they kind of coined it, can tell the people today it's okay to buy sometimes when prices are going level. It's unpredictable a little bit because over time we do see growth. Most of those people who owned homes and did not bail back in 2007 and 8, 9, their values are at the highest they've ever been, way higher than they had, 20-30% higher than what it was back when they thought it was the highest. Not saying that real estate will end up like that again, but that's what happens in real estate. Prices go up and down. We'll come back after this break. I'm Tony Mendez. It's Gordon Hines. You can always reach us at Facebook or YouTube. That's Bay Area Loan Source. Bay Area Loan Source. We'll come back after this break.
Tony and Gordon are taking your calls at 800-516-1220. It's the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.
Well, she was an American girl, raised up in privacy.
Welcome back into the Real Estate Report. I'm Tony Mendez.
And then the maestro, Gordon Hines.
You can always call the show 800-516-1220, 800-516-1220, or email the show, Tony or Gordon at bayarealoansource.com. So we start off the show talking about an amazing trip that hope if some brokers out there, some loan agents are out there, give us a call. We can tell you who we went and saw, and they are actually inviting all of the brokers and loan officers out to their fantastic facility out in Michigan. You probably know who it is if I say Michigan, but they're fantastic. It was really good to see the back end of how loans work and how serious they really do take it. And it's for brokers. It's the business is built by brokers in a sense because they use the philosophy of how brokers work. It's kind of hard to push that to the consumer as a kind of entertainment. Maybe you can fill in a little bit of blanks while you're scribbling some notes.
Well, I think it's, business has changed a lot in the mortgage business over the last, 12 years, ever since we had the mortgage reform of 2008, which started with Dodd-Frank. I think, we've seen a lot of positive changes happen in our industry. I think we've seen, of course, the first thing we did was separate the appraisers from the lenders. The second thing we did, we went to a national licensing. Everybody has to have an NMLS license, regardless of what state you're in. I think that was a great positive thing. Everyone has to be trained and every year get recertified. I think that's
something that we definitely is different than the pre-recession.
Yeah, I think it was a great thing. I think the other thing that we did, we came up with mortgage. You had to qualify. You had to be a reason why you're doing a mortgage. We came back with refinance. There had to be a benefit, in refinance. Like FHA had to have a 5% benefit when you're going to refinance for a lower rate on a Streamline product. So there had to be a benefit. You just didn't take a broker or anybody else. Just take advantage of a customer because they said, hey, good time to refinance. So I think all those have strengthened the marketplace and strengthened the business itself, I think. We read a lot of people that should not have been in this business after we went through that whole, free cheese market, as I call it, back in 2004, 2005, 2006. So brokers now are, like everything else with technology and always been the go-getter in the business. Banks have separated themselves from brokers. Banks want the crystal cookie cutter type deals, what they call the wealth management type clients. They don't want to deal with the FHA, the 3.5% down. They want the 800 credit scores, the 25% down working for Apple. So I think
they've left a lot of money on the table too, and that's where the brokers really are like, why?
And it's allowed brokers to kind of really move in and get, bigger percentage chunks of the marketplace. And now you'll see as we go further and further, when you look at the top 5 mortgage originators in the country, probably 3 of them are probably mortgage bankers, not banks. Where they don't have the bigger retail. Even though mortgage brokers don't have the retail walk-in like the banks do, the banks have steady customers every day. They look at customers that they have a chance to influence. But I think it's the nuts and bolts, the street attack. The soldiers on the streets have really made brokers an effective part of business, and people, were bad-mouthing brokers.
It's also attracted the better talent. I think that's also a testament to what's happened since that banks will just have the hardest time competing with. Ultimately, I think is that the talent goes to brokers, and it's because they don't pay talent.
Well, you have the lenders. You have a lot more products to sell when you're a broker. When you walk into a bank, you sell what the bank offers. A lot of times the bank has either, like they say in the grocery store, paper or plastic, right? And the broker has many different options that are available. And I think that's been a testament of why we are in that. Like we said, that company I'm proud of, they've taken it to another level. And I think it's all good for business, not necessarily as brokers themselves.
I was sitting next to a couple that came from Pennsylvania, and they were doing a couple scenarios. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty big down payment. No, that's the price of the house. I was like, oh, okay. It was like $300,000, and so it's a different world out there out of California. I think that Californians are, used to these prices. They're not used to these rates yet. We're still kind of figuring this out. I saw you kind of squint when I said that. I mean that people really like the ability to buy. I don't like seeing affordability numbers being hurt, especially when people that are, dual incomes in the Bay Area can still afford a $1.2, $1.3, $1.4 million house with 20% down still. And that's what's considered the affordability range here in the Bay Area. Is that going to be enough to buy the inventory that's going to hit the market? Where does that leave the homes that are out of that area, that range, in the higher range? So as this plays out, I think people are thought that all of their options were just low rates. That's not always true. There's going to be products out there. There's going to be other creative ways that people can buy homes. We're seeing people that are partnering together to buy homes. We're looking at a lot of people looking at duplexes, buying the whole building, but living in one side of it, and then doing the renovations. There's still going to be a big, I know you don't like this word, flipping industry out there. I think as we see more inventory in the market, we're going to see investors that have held on properties, or just normal people that have held properties. I'm not saying that investors aren't normal people. Don't misread me. That are going to release property into the market while they think that it's the highest it's going to be in a period of time. Maybe the baby boomers who have invested heavily into real estate over the last 20-something years. They say, oh, this is our nest egg. Boom, we got to sell it. That's going to give opportunities for people to jump in and take those properties. But the products are there to help people buy properties that might not actually fit Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And that's the good news.
Well,
the good news is more inventory, more choices, more opportunities for people to jump in the market.
The products are where we go, where we have been. That's where it takes the market to a different level. One of the things that product we probably will see come back, and it's been a ghost from our marketplace, is seller-assisted financing. That's one of the things that Dodd-Frank got rid of. Seller could not participate in financing. As these prices became very high, I think you probably will see that come back in the marketplace. Seller can carry 10, 15, 20% on the purchase transaction.
We'll sell it to you this price, but if you allow us to carry this much,
So we'll see as time go on. The more time go on, the more creative we get in order to keep that ka-ching going.
Well, there's certainly some smart people out there that are going to try to keep that going, and that's what we're looking forward to. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. You can always reach us at BayAreaLoanSource.com. That's also Facebook and YouTube, LinkedIn, all of those good places. We got all the information there. And you can always email us, Tony or Gordon, at BayAreaLoanSource.com. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Tony Mendez. That's Gordon Hines. It's the Real Estate Report on AM 1220 KDOW.